Hello everyone, with the Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the Caribbean. It is Thursday evening, February 9th, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Also feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. I respond to all comments and I really live for this stuff. Alright, so let us take a look at the significant feature map across the Atlantic for this evening. We can still see that we have a high pressure ridge to the north of the Caribbean that's dominating the weather across the entire Atlantic, sending a lot of easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. We can see a cold front right there across the southern United States, and we can also see another cold front right there to the north of the eastern Caribbean. And if you actually take a look at the visible satellite images before the sun went down, we can see all of those low level clouds being pushed from east to west across the main development region into the Caribbean by that easterly wind that was brought about by that high pressure ridge. We can also see the clouds associated with a cold front across the southern United States bring some amount of overcast skies and showers to sections of the Gulf of Mexico as well as the southern United States. And we can also see the clouds associated with that cold front to the north of the eastern Caribbean right there. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean later on. Let's focus our attention on what was forecasted yesterday for today's weather. If we remember yesterday's video, we'd know that we were expecting some amount of rainfall across sections of northern and eastern Jamaica in the morning, and then spreading to sections of central and western Jamaica during the afternoon. What ended up happening? A post was made this morning at 4:35 a.m. highlighting some clouds bringing some amount of isolated thunder showers. We can see those sparkling white dots in those clouds that represent the lightning flashes. And where is that? Across sections of northern and eastern Jamaica, so sections of St. Anne, Trelawney, St. Mary, Portland, and maybe even section of St. Thomas got in on some of that early this morning. Then another post was made late this afternoon at 4:25 p.m. highlighting some amount of clouds bringing some amount of overcast skies and isolated thunder showers to sections of St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. And even prior to that, we had some amount of clouds bringing some thunder showers across sections of Trelawney right there. So some central parishes got in on some of that weather as well, just as the models predicted. Alright, so let us talk about the temperatures for tonight. We can see that we have 24 degrees Celsius in Morant Bay. We can see a 26 degrees Celsius in Black River. And if you'd like, you can pause this video right now to see what the temperatures are like in your specific area. Keep in mind that these temperatures should be getting lower as the night progresses. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we can see Jamaica embedded in what looks like at least 1 degree Celsius above average temperatures. Those yellows represent 1 degree Celsius above average, as you can see on the key. And what are the average temperatures for the month of February? That's about 86 degrees Fahrenheit. And when we look at the equivalent of 86 degrees Fahrenheit on the thermometer, that's about 30 degrees Celsius. And if we're going to be receiving at least 1 degree Celsius above average temperatures, we should be getting 31 to 32 degrees Celsius at the most. If you actually take a look at the dry air map for tomorrow, we can see that, well, for right now, we can see that Jamaica is still embedded in a lot of dry air, as indicated by all of that reds and oranges. We can see some blues to the west of Jamaica associated with that rainfall that we got across the island today. We can see a lot of blues across portion of the eastern Caribbean, lots of moisture across that spot right there. If you actually take a look at the Saharan dust map, we can see that the Caribbean in general, Jamaica, has no Saharan dust to be getting. 2 p.m. on Friday has all of the browns associated with the Sahara dust across portion of the main development region and Africa. If you actually take a look at the waves for tomorrow, the waves should be reaching up to 2 meters high, and the Euro and the GFS are in agreement with that. The highest wave height should be to the far south as well as the eastern section of the island. So fishers do take necessary precautions so that they are not that drastically affected. And what is causing all of those high wave heights? all of the strong winds that we're going to be receiving across the island tomorrow, especially on the south coast. We can see some greens that represent up to 10 to 20 knot winds, while we can see in the yellows that represents up to 25 to 30 knot winds, and all of those strong winds are to the south of Jamaica out to sea. We can get some of it coming in on the south coast, but majority of it is out to sea. So that is where all of the highest wave heights are gonna be, to affect persons that are out there maybe fishing or so forth. We can still get some amount of strong winds coming into sections of southern Jamaica, and with the strongest winds coming into sections of southern Jamaica, there might be a bias where all of the air piles up. We can see that some blows that represent where we're going to be having the least amount of winds across sections of inland areas of central and western Jamaica. And what usually happens with that, in the afternoon we get some buildup of clouds and afternoon convection right there. And if all of the strongest winds are coming in more from the east or east southeast, there might be a bias for all of these afternoon showers to take place across sections of northern Jamaica, especially considering the fact that both the Euro and the GFS are in agreement that by 1 p.m. tomorrow we're going to be receiving some west-southwesterly wind shear. So if we have a buildup of clouds across sections of, let's say, inland areas of central and western Jamaica, if the clouds should rise up to the upper levels of the atmosphere, becoming thunderclouds, then those will be blown off towards the east-northeast by that west-southwesterly wind shear, bringing more of the biased overcast skies and maybe even thunder showers to sections of northern Jamaica. So maybe St. Anne, St. Mary, Trelawney, St. James and Hanover might get in on most of the afternoon convection for tomorrow. Let's talk about the precipitation forecast for tomorrow. We can see that at 4 a.m. on Friday, the Euro and the GFS are showing some amount of blues right there offshore the northeastern parts of the island. So maybe St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland might get in on some amount of rainfall in the early morning hours. Then switching to 2 p.m. we see some blues starting to pile up across where? Sections of eastern, central and western Jamaica, with more of the bias across northern Jamaica, just like what we saw in the wind forecast. And the GFS is in consensus with what the Euro is showing, eastern, central and western Jamaica, with most of the bias across northern Jamaica. Moving ahead to 3 p.m. we still see something very similar. It's getting a bit more robust on the GFS, especially across northern sections of the island. Moving ahead to 4 p.m. it's about the same, with more of it across sections of western Jamaica, central and western Jamaica on the GFS, rather than across eastern Jamaica like what the Euro is showing. So that is where the only disagreement is. Either way, some afternoon convection is in the forecast. We can see the accumulated precipitation forecast from now up until 10 p.m. on Friday shows some amount of rainfall across the island of Jamaica, especially western Jamaica. So if you're going out on the western side of the island, especially on the north coast, do take necessary precautions. Bring your rain gear with you. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let's talk briefly about the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we can see a lot of clouds coming in from the east, from the main development region, across portions of the Leeward and the Windward Islands. Majority of the eastern Caribbean islands are getting in on a lot of rainfall today, even up to recording hours. You can see some coming into sections of Venezuela, sections of the ABC Islands, sections of Honduras, sections of Belize and the Yucatan right there. We can see some coming into sections of the Turks and Caicos and Cuba as well, just like what we stated in yesterday's video. And let us look at the Doppler radar images for a second. We know that Doppler radar images show the actual rainfall as opposed to satellite images that show the cloud cover, and we can have cloud cover over an area and not necessarily rainfall. So starting this off at 2 p.m. today, we can see that those various spots across the northeastern Caribbean, Puerto Rico, the British and the US Virgin Islands, sections of St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, Guadeloupe, Dominica, got in on some amount of passing rainfall today. The greens represent light to moderate rainfall. The yellows that are embedded within the green represent at least some amount of heavy rainfall. So even up to this hour right now, we still have a lot of rainfall across the area coming in from the main development region. We can even look at on the Barbados radar. We see a lot of rainfall surrounding the island of Barbados, even coming onshore on Barbados throughout the day today, even up to tonight, and continuing throughout the night into tomorrow morning. We can also see a lot of rainfall moving into areas to the north, south, and west of Barbados as well. So sections of Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, Tobago, and Trinidad will be getting in on more rainfall, if not already receiving that rainfall right now. If we actually take a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we can see where that rainfall is across portions of the Yucatan Peninsula, sections of northern Belize, sections of Guatemala, sections of Guyana right there, sections of French Guyana right there, as well as Colombia. If we actually take a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we can see that across the Eastern Caribbean, for the most part, we're going to be getting some amount of blows that represent at least 1 degree Celsius below average temperatures. Both maps are showing 1 p.m. on Tuesday. You can see the above normal temperatures seem to be across portions of, let's say, Haiti, Cuba, the Bahamas, Florida, not Hispaniola, portion of the Cayman Islands, portion of the Yucatan Peninsula, Belize, Guatemala, Honduras. That's where the above normal temperatures are going to be for tomorrow, and there's consensus on both the Euro and the GFS models. And we know that when we have consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. If we actually take a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see a majority of the Caribbean is embedded in some amount of purples and reds that represent at least 2+ meter wave heights. So from the eastern to the western Caribbean, some high wave heights are expected. Why is that? There's a lot of strong easterly wind currently across the region. These maps are showing 12 p.m. on Friday, and both the Euro and the GFS are showing strong winds up to anywhere from 25 to 30 knot winds across the eastern and the central and western Caribbean. Not so much across Jamaica, but maybe as stated, probably southern coastal areas, sections of Dominican Republic and Haiti, northern coastal areas, and as well as southern coastal areas, portions of Puerto Rico, majority of the eastern Caribbean, including the Leeward and the Windward Islands, section of the ABC Islands, portion of Colombia getting in on some of those strong winds as well. So fishers, do take necessary precautions so that you're not that drastically affected. Alright, so let's talk now about the precipitation forecast for tomorrow. We can see that both the Euro and the GFS are showing some amount of rainfall, but to more of less than 1 inch of rainfall across sections of, let's say, the eastern portion of Dominican Republic, sections of the Windward and Leeward Islands, the very areas that were just mentioned to be getting that rainfall, if not already getting that rainfall. These spots are still to receive rainfall. This map is showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Friday. So sections of Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, Barbados still to receive some amount of rainfall tomorrow. St. Vincent, Grenada getting in on some of that rainfall. Scrolling down, we can see that we still have some more rainfall to get across portions of northern Venezuela, right there across the border of Venezuela and Colombia. Even up to 1 inch of rainfall across portions of Costa Rica, Panama, Nicaragua, and Honduras. And if we actually take a look at the GFS model, we have consensus with all of that rainfall that's expected. So there might be some amount of isolated flash flooding that's taking place tomorrow as well. If we actually take a look out west, we can see that we have a lot of rainfall being forecasted from now up until 10 p.m. on Friday across the waters of the Gulf of Mexico, across portions of Mexico itself. You can also see some amount of rainfall still to be had across portions of Belize, southern Belize that is, sections of Guatemala as well on the Euro. And the GFS is showing something similar, and we know that when we have consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.